Hi, I'm Dr. Charlene Walters, author, business and branding mentor, trainer, as well as your host for Launch, a business talk show for anyone who wants to launch their business, their career, or their life. Hi everyone, welcome to Launch. I'm Charlene Walters, your host, and today we have Jason Powers as our guest. He is the Chief of Licensing with the SBIC at the Small Business Administration, and he's also a Senior Investment Officer. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Hi, Charlene. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you can join us. We are coworkers from the past. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your journey and everything you've done professionally? Because I think you have a really interesting story.
Sure. Well, I don't think it's as interesting, but I'll give it a shot. Right out of high school, I joined the military. It was the right path for me. You can see the sword and things in the back. Marines love themselves, so they always hang it on the walls.
They're nice to see.
So right out of high school, I did that. It was something that I needed. Taught me a lot of discipline. And outside of the military, getting out, I transitioned. I suffered and struggled with that transition. I didn't really have a mentor to help me, which I know is something that I'm passionate about now, is helping transitioning veterans. I got into some finance. I did some education in finance. I quickly transitioned into federal law enforcement. I did that for many, many years. And here just recently, in the past 16, 17 months, I have transitioned into a new role at the Small Business Administration as a senior investment officer, or the chief of licensing, where I am the sort of gatekeeper or first line of analytical review for small business investment companies that deploy capital to small businesses.
Very cool. For the audience and those that don't know, can you talk a little bit about how the SBIC works?
Sure. So the SBIC, or the Small Business Investment Companies Program, is one of many, several dozen programs that the Small Business Administration has. So work at the Small Business Administration. And the SBIC program is a public-private partnership where very seasoned, affluent, very educated, very successful venture capitalists, private equity professionals, or just investment professionals, they come to the SBA or the SBIC program with a very documented investment track record and private limited partner capital. They raise money from their private investors. And for every dollar that they bring us, we will give them $2 to go out and make venture or private equity investments in small businesses as defined by the Code of Federal Regulations. And the hope is to stimulate the small business economy by creating jobs in growth businesses, expansive businesses, revenue positive businesses. And those SBICs could come in with $50 million of private limited partner capital, and we can send them out with another 100 million to have 150 million of total deployable capital to make those investments in small businesses.
So such an important, office that you work for, and you do so many wonderful things there. Can you talk a little bit about your role and what exactly you do?
Sure. So I am as you introduced, the chief of SBIC licensing. That's sort of an internal government wonky title.
Yes.
Externally, I'm sort of known as a senior investment officer. So I oversee a team of investment officers, and their jobs are to look at incoming SBIC applicants. And we run them through a very rigorous, standardized, and systematic vetting process. And we're looking at their management cohesion, their performance track record, doing a bunch of really thorough due diligence. And my background as a federal agent helps out with the due diligence.
Yes, absolutely.
And we are getting them to a place where we will recommend or not recommend them, and we will take them through formal committee process, like an investment committee and just various committees, to get them that stamp of approval of an SBIC, and we will send them out there to make those investments. So I am sort of the gatekeeper to the program and make the first analytical recommendation to a large body of investment committee members, whether to approve or disapprove the SBICs.
Very interesting and obviously an important position. You also do a lot to help women, minorities, and veterans in your position. How exactly do you assist them?
Yeah, great question, and a very perfect time for this question. So, as a fiduciary of the government money, and my job as a regulator, I don't form businesses. I don't tell which businesses to come together, but I do love to see women, people of color, and veterans coming into the program. My job in this spot is to preach awareness and literacy.
Yeah.
What I can do is get out and talk more about the program, more about private equity, more about venture capital, and where there is sort of that gap of where we need more women, where we need more people of color and more veterans as general partners or principals or investment professionals, as we call them, in these funds. So it's a very small niche of finance, private equity and venture capital. It's sort of like this buzz term that everyone hears and they don't really know what it means. And my job here in this role is to help promote literacy and awareness, and I'm very, very passionate about that. I don't believe there's numbers that are all out there on the internet about that how many women or how many minorities or how many veterans are in this sort of space. The SBIC program is a very small subset of overall venture capital and private equity. Or, we're just a small piece of it. But I believe that the awareness and literacy should be throughout the entire private equity community, promoting more women, people of color, and veterans in this space.
I've done a lot of research about this and read a lot of stats about it, but women tend to get less funding than men, and when they do go after it, they ask for lower amounts than men do. Why do you think that is? In your opinion, what are some of the underlying reasons?
Yeah, another great question. So, sort of piggybacking off of the last one, it's the lack of awareness and the lack of literacy. I know there's sort of an unconscious bias of from years and years ago, and we're in a different space nowadays, but there is an unconscious bias that maybe women weren't as successful as men, which unequivocally is not true. And I certainly do not agree with that. I see the statistics, the same ones that you're probably seeing.
Yes.
I get to see venture capital as a whole, looking at various investment databases, and it's unequivocally not true. I believe that, I see women and people of color and my veterans that are coming into this program every day, and they are equivalent rock stars with their male counterparts. And it's something that I am very passionate about. My entire team is passionate about. We're working on a bunch of behind the scenes diversity projects where we're promoting the program. I can't, as I said, I can't form the funds. I can't tell what 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 people to come together and be professionals together, but I can promote awareness and I can promote literacy, and I can do my job as a regulator or at my role and lean in and do things just like this and just promote the program, promote private equity, and say, we can all do it. It doesn't matter your race, your gender, your color, but we can all do it.
And definitely, women and others often struggle in terms of financial confidence. What do you do to help them feel more comfortable? What do you say to them? I know you're working one-on-one with individuals.
Yeah, well, I tell you, the women that I'm working with that I see on a daily basis, they do not struggle with confidence.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, they're coming from amazing academic pedigrees, working in really large private equity firms. They're coming from really good training programs. But I think what really helps is where the women that are currently in this profession, I am seeing a dramatic shift where they are helping other women, whether they're women at HBCUs, women in undergraduate programs of finance. I see a lot of stuff happening. I'm really seeing some really exciting things happening where, I can give, I won't say the names, but I could give you tons of examples of private equity firms and venture firms that I'm working with, that they're leading on their own diversity initiatives, where they're going to high schools, they're going to colleges, and they're promoting private equity and investing and stepping outside of your comfort zone and trying something different. The old saying of, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect here, because they just don't know about this space. They don't know about venture capital. They don't know about being an entrepreneur, what it takes, and what it takes to be in private equity, or just this specialized niche of finance. So I'm really excited to work with all of them. I learn a lot from them. I certainly can't do it alone. And when I talk to them, I'm saying, well, this group over here is doing this, and this group over here is doing that. And I really do my best to connect them and say, like, you guys are all independent rock stars. How about, multiplying your efforts and, going out to a larger audience and seeing what you can do.
I think that connection is obviously so important to entrepreneurs, particularly because a lot of times it's isolating and it's lonely. And I also work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I find that, sometimes we have to work with them in terms of their money mindset. How much of an influence do you think someone's upbringing has on how they view money and their finances?
Oh, wow. It's huge. If I can just speak briefly on myself, my upbringing, I came from a very blue collar inner city upbringing, uh, uneducated parents, and neither of them graduated high school. So absolutely, it has an effect. And it really gets back to, I don't want to beat this dead horse of literacy and awareness, but it really does get back to that. You'll remember, I don't give away my age or anyone else's age. But in high school, I was taking typing classes on that old school typewriter. I took a checkbook class. I took an accountancy class. Those things aren't happening today in general, from my basic understanding of curriculum. I think in schools today, they should be learning about things like this, where the market is going. I think it's great to learn about history and things that happened in the past, but we need to be more forward thinking and teaching students about where the market is going, where the future is going, where the jobs are going. Teaching kids in high school how to be an entrepreneur is huge. I think there needs to be an entrepreneurship 101 class instead of some other classes, but I think that really does make a lot of sense. And when I was in school, maybe the same for you, private equity, just like, that's the investment professionals and venture capital. That wasn't in my vocabulary. I didn't know what it meant. So exposing a younger generation to this, exposing women, people of color, to this earlier, I think helps out with the future. We have to plant those seeds today for them to flourish in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
For sure, that is so important, and I see it with my own children. The curriculum could certainly use a little tweaking, and they could learn a lot more that they can apply in their life and pass on. And money mindset, is so involved with so many things: negotiation, pitching, etc. And I'm really a big believer in bootstrapping for new entrepreneurs, getting more done that they can do by themselves. What are some of your tips that you have in terms of bootstrapping?
Really good question. And I see this every day. I see the SBICs that we manage are investing in small businesses. So we invest alongside of them, as I mentioned, one of their dollars with two of our dollars. And I get to see their term sheets. I get to see their financials. I get to see the inner workings of the SBIC and the small businesses they're investing in. And we can look at statistics all day long, and we can say X number of small businesses don't make it because of various things. I think number one of those is working capital, the lack of cash management. I would say be frugal. As an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, be frugal, be creative, and be nimble. I think those are three really important things that I get to see, taking all of the stuff that I get to see and put into one sort of succinct message, I think is being frugal. There are tons of avenues and methods to get capital when bootstrapping, whether they're angel investors, banks, taking on equity partners, going to the SBA to get a loan. If there's anything in small business that you can manage, is those indirect and variable costs. That's really what's going to kill you as an entrepreneur in a small business, is thinking you need to have every latest piece of technology, or spending a fortune in Facebook or Instagram ads. It's managing technology, managing your marketing. Spending too much cash in your infancy as a small business is why you fail.
Yeah.
And so managing that working capital is probably one of the most important things.
I see that a lot with new entrepreneurs. Sometimes they get caught up in the shininess of entrepreneurship. They want to set up that fancy website, buy those flashy new t-shirts, do a lot of things that aren't necessarily generating money or bringing revenue into their business, and that's where their focus should lie instead. As we come out of this pandemic, maybe we've been through a tough time financially as business owners, maybe others have been laid off or furloughed. What advice would you give those who've experienced those difficult financial times moving forward as we emerge from the pandemic?
Yeah, so through my lens of looking at small businesses over this pandemic, I transitioned from being a federal agent into this position during the pandemic. I actually have not even been to my office yet. I've been working from home since I transitioned into this role, and I'm getting to see lots of businesses and how they're pivoting, how they're practicing being nimble in the face of this pandemic, getting loans, getting PPP loans and EIDL loans and all of these different things, the economic injury disaster loan. I get stuck in SBA jargon, I apologize.
No worries.
So I would say, again, having a plan, staying positive, and you're going to have, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, you're going to have competing priorities. You need to identify those priorities, aka risk, maybe, and sort of quantify them, prioritize them, and look to manage and mitigate them. Sometimes you can't mitigate all risk. Sometimes you have to accept the risk or transfer it in a different way. So that those are really important ways to think of having a plan, of mitigating, accepting, or transferring risk in your business. Manage all of your expenses. From the previous question, I think it's super important to think about how you can manage all of your expenses professionally and personally. Yeah. Having a sound personal financial plan is equally as important as it is your business having a plan. You can't preach manage variable and indirect costs in your small business and not do that personally as well. You're going to have to make sacrifices. I have seen tons of businesses make sacrifices where they're letting people go. They're hiring firms to help with things to get rid of some of those indirect overhead costs, where you can manage that at a fraction of what you would pay an employee. Sadly, that happens, and you have to think about managing your cost to stay positive, revenue positive. And lastly, I would master the concept of time value of money as a financial professional and someone who lives and breathes finance. Just Google time value of money, watch a couple YouTube videos on it, read it, get intimate with it, because it is the backbone of all things finance.
Absolutely. And it's important to focus on both your business budget and your personal budget, because they're both intertwined. And particularly when you're first starting out as an entrepreneur, you really have to cut back in all areas. I've lived through that myself. As we emerge from this pandemic, businesses and industries are shifting, and it's kind of hard to make sense of it all. What are some general investment tips that you could give as individuals are not really sure where to put their money right now?
Oh, a good one. That's it. Buy low, sell high. I'm not going to talk about any. I'm not going to talk about anything cryptocurrency today.
Okay, good.
Far away from that topic.
We'll save that for another day.
Yeah, making very smart, critical, well-thought decisions when it comes to investing. If we're speaking personally, and you can apply this to professionally as an entrepreneur in a small business as well. Do not get sucked into FOMO, or the fear of missing out, or
Yeah.
hurting with other people.
It's real.
It is very, very real. Part of my PhD research is in financial behaviorism, and the fear of missing out or hurting it's really, really important, and it's a concept that it's out there and it happens. There's like efficient market hypothesis and behavioral finance. I don't want to get too nerdy on that stuff, but FOMO and hurting.
Go ahead.
But FOMO and hurting is a thing, and so just make well thought out, critical decisions based on good fundamental analysis, good technical analysis. So technical being looking at the numbers, and fundamental being what you can't read in the numbers. So when you open up the hood of an engine and you look at the engine and see what's in there, something that Warren Buffett is really, really big about. I can look at the numbers and the numbers tell me a story, but I'm going to go to the business and I'm going to talk to the CEO. I'm going to talk to the CFO. I'm going to talk to the people on the plant floor, and I'm going to ask them how things are going. So think about some of the fundamental soft things that you can look at. I'll leave you with this. You don't buy McDonald's because you like Big Macs. You don't buy the Nike stock because you think it's your favorite shoe. You buy it because there's really good fundamental technical reasons to buy it. So you don't buy things just because you like it. You buy things because it really makes fundamental financial sense.
Absolutely. That does make sense. And a little tip for those watching out there, what's one single thing you could recommend in terms of saving for retirement?
My favorite, I know you and I have talked about this over the years many, many times. It's, if you have a retirement platform, max it out.
Okay.
Max out your whatever you have. If you have a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a SEP, an IRA, whatever it may be, max that thing out. Whatever your IRS limits are, put it all in there. If you don't have any of those, contact a financial planner, preferably a certified financial planner.
Yes.
Or a registered investment advisor, or someone who has a lot of education, a lot of time, passed some really hard tests to be that professional. Put your faith and trust in someone that can give you some good guidance. I would certainly put as much money away today as you can for tomorrow. When the roof leaks, you go and you get 3 estimates on who's going to be the best person. When your car breaks down, you go to 3 mechanics to try to get the best rate. When you have a problem medically, you go to 2 or 3 doctors to get the best opinion. You should be doing that for retirement for the rest of your life. This is the rest of your life you're talking about. Yes. So you should put your trust and fidelity in someone that can help you. And there's tons of scholarly research out there, which I may or may not have looked at, that says...
Sounds like fun.
that the current population, the current generation rather, they don't have a lot of disposable income, and they're not very trustworthy of financial professionals just because they don't know a lot about it. So what I would say is educate yourself. Be your biggest and best advocate. Learn what this stuff means. Learn what a mutual fund is. Learn what an IRA means, an exchange traded fund. Know your maximum limits that you can invest, and just put away as much as you can today and let it compound for tomorrow. And again, time value of money. Time value of money is the most important concept. $1 today is not worth $1 tomorrow.
That is excellent advice. And I'm going to switch gears a little bit. You also used to be a federal agent, which was interesting. Can you talk to us about what you did and give us a little more info on that?
Sure. So transitioning out of the military, um, many years ago, when transitioning wasn't as robust and helpful as it is today,
Yes.
you just say, "Hey, this is what I did," and they say, "Well, you're going to be a good law enforcement person. Go do that." That's just sort of the guidance that you get. So I went into federal law enforcement. I spent many years doing that. Recently retiring from there in late May, early June of last year in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic. And I worked in complex white collar crime. So finance has always been my thing. And I thought bringing those two together, bringing finance and law enforcement together would be really cool and a lot of fun. And I've done a lot of really cool things over the years. I've worked on securities fraud cases. I've worked on large mortgage fraud cases, public corruption, bribery, tax fraud, money laundering, lots of really cool cases where you get to see risk from a different perspective. You get 5, 6, 7, 100 boxes of documents, and things may have happened 4, 5, 6 years ago, and you need to put the puzzle together and figure it out. So it was a ton of fun. I had a blast doing it.
Sounds interesting for sure.
But I was just ready for finance full time and a better work life balance.
I don't blame you. I think we all arrive at that point eventually. So we are going to play a fun little game. It's called If You Tell Me Yours, I'll Tell You Mine. And we are going to do a speed round today, Jason.
Okay.
So peanut butter or jelly?
Peanut butter.
Me too, peanut butter. What about mountains or beaches?
Mountains.
Beaches. Cats or dogs?
Definitely dogs.
Dogs here too. Blue or green?
Blue.
Blue for me too. Day or night?
Night.
It used to be night for me, but now I'd say it's more day. Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Waffles. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Coke. All right, we made it through. Hooray! Thank you for sharing more about you.
My pleasure. Yeah, that was fun. I'm going to try that.
So we're coming to the end here, Jason. So where can the audience find out more about you and follow you?
Yeah, so like everyone, I'm on LinkedIn, but just new. I spent many years minimizing my digital footprint,
Yes.
but I'm finally out there, and that's pretty much the only place that I am is on LinkedIn, Jason Powers. You find me. I may have a beard in the picture because I grew it over COVID, and I refused to shave until it was over. I refused to shave until COVID was over, but COVID was really prolonged, so I had to shave.
Yes.
But I'm on LinkedIn, and also I have a minimal footprint on Twitter as well as at Professor_JPP.
Awesome. I hope everybody will check you out and connect with you, and we will see you next time here on Launch.